What if Portugal win the World Cup? We're not talking about a team full of stars. This is going to be the most terrifying Portugal you've ever seen.
Our team is in this moment in a great shape, balance with the young players and with the best player in the world. We feel that maybe it's our time also.
The team with a man who just shattered the Premier League assist record.
Here is Bruno Fernandes' corner, whipped in, header off the bar and in! And Bruno Fernandes writes his name in the history books!
A midfielder with top ratings, not only in League One, but across the Champions League as well. Alongside him, a 21-year-old tempo controller carrying the pedigree of a European champion, heavily pursued by some of the biggest clubs in the world. Together with one of the best defensive duos in world football today.
Repasse par Nuno Mendes qui a éliminé facilement à son tour. Ça, c'est bien joué de la part de Nuno Mendes qui gagne des mètres et qui sonne la révolte parisienne. Premier carton sûrement.
It's out here to Cancelo. Cancelo's delivering an interesting angle. Barca have scored again. Just a single goal in it now.
And standing at the centre of all that glory, the greatest goalscorer in history. Entering his 6th World Cup at the age of 41, he is giving everything he has for the final moments of the longest and most enduring international career in modern football history.
Here, Angelo. Lovely little pass as well from Ali Al Hassan. This is Al Bouchal. Ronaldo! Sensational! The legend does it again!
60 long years since the days of Eusebio and Portugal's third-place finish at the 1966 World Cup, the nation has never once reached the summit of world football. 6 decades of painful waiting, and now, perhaps this very squad is the ultimate answer.
It's simply insane when you go in every line.
Get ready, because Seleção dos Quinas is coming.
Put the font on the bottom, Dunlop, semicolon, Portugal are winning the World Cup.
The fatal detail opponents often overlook about Portugal is their squad depth. Rather than relying on iconic names to carry the burden, their strength this year lies in a structure that depends on no single individual. Portugal today is a true multi-layered machine, where even if any one layer is removed, the next is more than capable of stepping into battle and continuing the fight. When you look at Portugal right now, the spotlight has to fall on midfield, the most frightening engine room of this tournament. One analyst put it bluntly before the competition. My favourites this year are Portugal. They have the best midfield, Vitinha, Neves and Bruno. Bruno Fernandes is living proof that such a statement is completely immune to accusations of exaggeration. During the 2025-26 season, he turned the Premier League into his personal stage, recording 9 goals and 21 assists for Manchester United and walking away with the Best Player of the Season award.
This is an individual award, but it comes because we had a very good season together. Without your help, obviously this wasn't possible. You guys can imagine that I'm very proud and very happy to get this.
At a time when the entire Premier League doubted Manchester United's chances of securing a Champions League spot, Bruno single-handedly dragged the team forward with 30 goal contributions, turning what seemed impossible into reality.
Wherever Bruno plays, he's going to be the top assister. It doesn't matter who else comes in.
1 touch, 2 touch, perfect. And he knows the next pass. You see him scanning, he knows what players are doing, and he's not just that, look, he's got delivery as well. And the key thing is that passion. They made him captain because he's got that passion. And that is vital for any Manchester United. And I've seen him do that so many times in train, and look, and the passion that he's got, once too much at times, once he controls that, he's great delivery. He's just an all-round very, very good player.
But Bruno Fernandes is only the tip of the iceberg. Portugal's terrifying depth truly reveals itself in the next layer, João Neves. At just 21 years old, after arriving at PSG for €60 million, Neves quickly collected back Champions League titles and established himself as the midfield metronome of the Kings of Europe. The confidence of a 21-year-old was perfectly illustrated by a hat-trick against Toulouse in League One, including improvised bicycle kick wonder goal. And remember this, he's only 21 years old and already conducting the midfield of the reigning Champions League winners. And right beside Neves stands Vitinha, the UCL Player of the Final. But that's not where it ends. He also finished with the highest rating in all of League One, according to SofaScore. If midfield is the engine, then their attack is the weapon of mass destruction. Leading the charge is none other than Rafael Leao, a 1m88 giant at the age of 26.
I'm the one and only, there's no way I'll back down. I'm the one you watch, and you know I make it big. Sticking with the flock till I take another swing.
The scary part is that even during a season heavily criticised for inconsistency and underperformance at AC Milan, he still quietly finished as the club's top scorer with 9 goals and 3 assists in Serie A. More importantly, his shooting accuracy remained in the 95th percentile across the entire league. In other words, even in a season where people claimed he was playing badly, Leao was still a more clinical and dangerous finisher than 95% of the forwards competing in Italy. And if an out-of-form Rafael Leao still isn't enough to keep opponents awake at night, just look at their bench. Pedro Neto, Francisco Conceição, João Felix, and Gonçalo Ramos. The depth is so absurd that this bench alone could comfortably serve as the starting 11 for most nations at the World Cup. Portugal this year is absolutely not a one-dimensional team. They are not arriving at the tournament with only a plan A. They already possess plans A, B, C, and even D. And the crazy part is that all 4 tactical options are equally lethal.
They're dangerous. Listen, every single position on this field is filled with talent. You've got then talented youngsters who will float around and potentially try to get into that starting 11.
Take a step further back, and you'll find a defensive line that has already proven itself on football's most brutal stages. A truly Champions League-tested system. At its heart is Ruben Dias, a world-class name that needs no introduction. Alongside him is Gonçalo Inácio, a quiet, reliable presence who is rapidly emerging as one of Europe's best centre-backs. And on the flank, Nuno Mendes has been so explosive that football analyst Didier Domi went as far as declaring on beIN Sports in March 2026.
He's the best left back in even in the world. When I look at all the big teams in Europe, City, Bayern, or Real Madrid, or Liverpool, or Arsenal, I don't think there is nobody better than him at the moment. And there is things that you very difficult to defend against. There is 2. First one is dribble, the other one is speed. And he's got speed and power. And he really improved. And I was very surprised, in the quality of his deliveries. And the quality of what he's doing sometime in the last third. So he's a fantastic asset.
Not only did the praise keep coming, but UEFA Champions League itself once described Men's as a left back, granted a license to operate as auxiliary wingers and midfielders. Nuno Mendes is not just a defender, he is also an explosive attacking weapon, a highly unpredictable third winger in a team that has just conquered the Champions League. Portugal's frightening strength is reflected in the overall numbers. 7 stars competing in the Premier League, 4 key players from PSG, the back-to-back UCL champions, and they enter the tournament as the reigning 2025 Nations League champion. Even though Opta's supercomputer, after running 25,000 simulations, ranks Portugal only 5th in the tournament with a 7% chance of winning it all. That figure may sound modest, but think back to the 2022 World Cup. Morocco quietly marched all the way to the semi-finals, despite having less than a 1% chance, according to pre-tournament projections. After all, football is a game played by humans, and it has never operated solely on dry probability figures. But before we open the biggest what-if question of the tournament, there is one crucial detail about this national team that you absolutely need to know. When Roberto Martinez officially announced his squad on May 19, 2026, he delivered a statement that carried tremendous weight.
Eu acho que é a nossa força, é a nossa alegria. Eu falei que na vida todos temos momentos muito difíceis. Perder o Diogo Jota foi momento inesquecível e momento muito difícil, mas o dia a seguir foi uma responsabilidade para todos nós de lutar pelo sonho do Diogo Jota e pelo exemplo que ele sempre foi com a nossa seleção. Então, o espírito, a força, o exemplo do Diogo Jota é o mais e vai ser o mais para sempre.
That name was Diego Jota. The 28-year-old forward tragically passed away last July following a devastating car accident in Spain. As it turns out, Portugal are not entering this tournament simply to chase a trophy. They are fighting for a teammate who is no longer here to witness it. And only when you uncover that emotional wound do you truly understand why Vitinha made such a cryptic statement before the tournament. I hope we win the World Cup with him, and for him. That him was never meant to refer solely to Cristiano Ronaldo. With the context now established, an ultra-competitive squad carrying a deeply emotional story enters the tournament. They navigate through Group K alongside Congo, Uzbekistan and Colombia, a challenge that is far from easy, yet entirely manageable for a team of this quality. Then, from the knockout stage onward, they march all the way to the final. If they truly manage to do that, what happens next? First of all, it would prove that Portugal is no longer Ronaldo's team, a legacy far greater and more meaningful than any individual. Ever since his debut in 2004, the football world has constantly asked the same question. Who will carry the national team after the CR7 era ends?
Yes, there could be certain parts of his game that aren't as explosive as, say, we saw 10, 15, 20 years ago. But if the ball's dropping to somebody in the box, who do you want to be taking that shot? Even to this day, it's still probably Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yet if they lift the trophy in 2026, with Bruno Fernandes orchestrating the play, Navish controlling the tempo, and Leão terrorising defender flank, the answer will reveal itself naturally. There will be no need for a post-Ronaldo era narrative. This is a generation that grew alongside him, and learned how to rise above on its own when the defining moments arrived. Portugal would officially establish itself as a football nation built on generational depth rather than a team endlessly waiting for its greatest star to retire. Their Nations League triumph over Spain, the Euro 2024 champion, in a nerve-shredding penalty shootout is the clearest evidence of that reality. That achievement completely dismisses any argument about luck and firmly confirms the mentality of a team that consistently knows how to deliver on the biggest stages.
They show pure class, they show so much talent. Portugal, a team that is now maturing towards that World Cup next year. Everybody bought into that phenomenon.
Beyond that, the next chapter of Portuguese football will belong to João Neves and an explosive Gen Z core. Zoom in on the 21-year-old midfielder. If he lifts the 2026 World Cup trophy, Neves will become a world champion at 21, immediately after already winning the Champions League at 20. With a long-term contract at PSG until 2029 and a market value reaching €140 million, he represents the foundation of the national team for at least the next decade. More importantly, Neves is far from alone on this journey. Around him stands a 23-year-old Nuno Mendes, who has already tasted UCL glory, a 26-year-old Leão entering the peak years of his career, and talented players such as Conceição, Ramos and Gonçalo Inácio, who are all still under 27. At this rate, Portugal in 2030 could be even more dangerous than the 2026 version, and this World Cup triumph would merely be the opening shot of a new era of dominance. Finally, and most importantly, this is where we return to Ronaldo and the defining question of his career. After 22 matches across 5 World Cups and 8 goals, he has still never experienced the atmosphere of a World Cup final. He has conquered almost every pinnacle the sport can offer. The Euro, the Nations League, a collection of Champions League trophies, and an unprecedented record of 143 international goals. His career resume stands like a mountain so immense that future generations may never come close to reaching it. Yet on the eve of Qatar 2022, he made a remarkably bold statement that very few players in his position would ever dare to make.
Pensar com calma, pensar o primeiro jogo contra o Ghana, que é o mais importante, para ganhar confiança, e a partir daí vendo o que vai acontecendo. Mas, para ganhar a competição, temos que ser os melhores. E se acreditamos que somos os melhores, temos que mostrar dentro de campo. Fácil.
A man who has scored nearly 1,000 career goals was willing to trade all of it away, ready to let go of every personal accolade in exchange for victory for Portugal. But the cruel reality named Morocco shattered that dream. On the night Portugal were eliminated, the image of Ronaldo slowly walking into the tunnel in tears was so heartbreaking that even today, few people can bring themselves to watch that moment again. Now at 41 years old, and entering the 6th World Cup of his career, he is still standing there despite all the farewell articles that had already been written for him back in 2022. If Portugal truly become world champions, Ronaldo's story will no longer be about goals. It will become the perfect final chapter of a man who never accepted stopping until there was simply no reason left to continue. So, is this scenario realistic? While Opta's supercomputer gives Portugal only a 7% chance of winning the tournament, and Jamie Carragher has confidently placed France in the final. Remember how many times experts have been wrong at major international competitions. What we know for certain about Portugal in 2026, is that they possess an incredibly frightening foundation. Arguably, the best midfield in the tournament with Vitinha, Neves, and Bruno Fernandes. A versatile attack capable of breaking opponents apart in countless ways. A Nuno Mendes on the left flank, widely recognised as the best in the world, and a massive psychological boost after defeating Spain to win the Nations League. Their only real weakness lies in the eternal question: can this star-studded squad maintain consistency across 7 consecutive matches? Because at a ruthless tournament like the World Cup, one bad day is all it takes for every dream to come crashing down. To conclude, Portugal are not arriving at this World Cup to prove that Ronaldo is great. That status was cemented 2 decades ago. They are here to prove that everything this team has spent years building, from the Nations League trophy to the unforgettable Champions League nights of Neves and Vitinha in Paris, and every goal-scoring dance performed by Leo in Milan, has finally matured enough to place them on top of the world. Once they achieve that, the story of Portuguese football will not end when Ronaldo walks off the pitch for the final time. On the contrary, that is precisely when a new era will truly begin. Spain are something just totally different in football.
Now it drops for Fabregas, who looks for Iniesta, who's onside! They take advantage of the extra man, and they believe they're going to win.
They do not merely win, they redefine the very concept of winning. By manipulating space, dictating tempo, and controlling every breath of the game, they make their opponents feel as though they are playing an entirely different sport. Spanish football is a one-of-a-kind chapter in history, and that chapter has not yet reached its conclusion.
This is a well-oiled machine. Players know each other well. They've had success in the Euros. There's no reason why they can't win the World Cup.
As the reigning European champions, sitting second in the world rankings and boasting a squad of stars coveted by half of the old continent.
Espanha porque eles ganharam a última Eurocopa, tem time que já joga há bastante tempo. Tem Lamine, que é dos melhores jogadores do mundo, sempre faz coisas incríveis dentro do campo, então é jogador que pode ganhar a Copa do Mundo sozinho.
This team has played the tournament better than any other team I remember in my lifetime. And that goes for Argentina, that goes for France, that goes for any other national side. Because this is not just that they won every game, they've been superior to every team.
Spain are marching toward the 2026 World Cup with the posture of a conqueror. Spain remains the sacred ground of football's finest craftsmanship. Elite technique, fluid ball circulation, and an exceptional sense of spatial awareness have become ingrained in the blood of this generation. Yet the defining difference of this team lies in its pace, directness, and aggression, qualities that previous Spanish sides never truly possessed. Much of the excitement surrounding this squad has been ignited by the Barcelona contingent, spearheaded by Lamine Yamal.
Got a bend on it! That is simply amazing! The youngest player to ever play in the semi-final of a major tournament has just delivered a goal for the ages!
Despite being only 18 years old, he has already emerged as one of the most elite superstars in world football. With 24 goals and 17 assists across all competitions this season, Yamal is truly a footballing wizard in the final third, a new icon of the national team. People have now begun to forget the phrase the youngest when defining him, and honestly, nobody can blame them.
He's exciting to watch in a generation of wingers that play side to side, get to the byline, cut back, go to somebody else. He's direct. He wants to kill the opposition, but with a beauty and a grace. Look at the way he goes past people here. And most importantly for me, he wants to score and he wants to win.
Next is Pedri, who serves as the central hub that keeps everything in midfield running smoothly.
That from Jules Koundé, and here is a chance, that is 2-1, and this time it's Pedri. Work move down the right, Barcelona.
Numerical superiority. He's very good bringing the ball out. Oh, Pedri with a dip of the shoulder. He'll cut this one back. It's Lewandowski, and it's wide.
He is continuing Spain's tradition of producing world-class conductors in midfield. It is Pedri's tactical vision, passing ability, and remarkable spatial awareness that allows Spain to dominate games and create scoring opportunities. Alongside him stands Gavi. If anyone says this kid only knows how to kick people, then they have clearly never watched a second of football in their life. Yes, Gavi is aggressive, tireless, and exceptional in duels, but his foundation is pure La Maja technique. Do not let that rugged exterior fool you. Barcelona's influence in attack is completed by Dani Olmo.
Olmo, back to Marcus Rashford. Rashford! Made by Rashford, finished by Rashford.
A player whose intelligent movement between the lines and exceptional spatial awareness turn every defensive system into a nightmare. The dominance of the Catalan contingent does not stop there, but extends all the way into defence, where Pau Cubarsí continues to display a maturity far beyond his years. At 19 years old, he possesses rare composure on the ball and outstanding game-reading ability, firmly establishing himself as one of the most important defenders in the current squad. Looking at that spine of the team, Spanish fans will feel a very familiar sensation as Barcelona once again becomes the solid foundation of the national side. However, this team is not built solely around the Catalan contingent, even if their influence is undeniable. I already know the comments section will soon be flooded with accusations that you are overhyping Barcelona. But no, my friend, because several of the most important pieces driving this team do not wear the Blaugrana colours. Let us talk about Rodri, the winner of the 2024 Ballon d'Or and also the player of the tournament at Euro 2024.
Oh, Rodri has got it off Amrabat. Erling Haaland!
Around him, the way that he's playing at the moment, he's in that good a form. Haaland trying to get in here between the...
Lifted through the centre. Torres in for number 6.
Even after recovering from a serious injury, he still protects the defence like an impregnable fortress and dictates the tempo of matches in a way that nobody else can replicate. Alongside him is Fabian Ruiz, perhaps the most underrated player I have ever seen in modern football. Ruiz plays with incredible flair and remains a constant threat to the opposition goal through his forward surges from midfield. His repeated dominance in the Champions League with PSG is the strongest possible proof of that quality. And it does not stop there. Spain also possess Martin Zubimendi, the man who replaced injured Rodri in the Euro 2024 final and then completely outclassed England's midfield. This is exactly the kind of world-class backup every major team dreams of having for a starting position. Further forward is Nico Williams, Athletic Club's explosive weapon, blessed with blistering pace and dribbling ability capable of tearing apart any defence. Although he has just come through a relatively quiet club season, once Nico and Yamal hit top form together, they undoubtedly become one of the most terrifying wing partnerships in world football. The quality of Spain's squad extends across every position. Just look at Mikel Oyarzabal, a player who, I swear, transforms into a completely different version of himself every time he puts on the national team shirt. He scored 15 goals in La Liga this season and was the author of the own goal. Well, not quite, the decisive goal that delivered Euro 2024 glory, always finding a way to step up in the most difficult moments. On the left flank, Alex Grimaldo is essentially a winger disguised as a full-back, producing attacking numbers that surpass many genuine forwards. Meanwhile, Marc Cucurella remains exactly who he has always been, a tireless running machine whose passionate style and provocative antics drive opponents to frustration. Finally, standing between the posts is Unai Simon, the hero who saved 2 penalties in the 2023 Nations League final. At the moment, Spain needed him most. It is clear that Spain possesses an astonishing and remarkably balanced pipeline of talent across every area of the pitch. With such a solid foundation in place, it will be extremely difficult for any rival power to catch up with them over the next few years.
it's a more settled Spain and it's a calmer Spain camp.
Remember, the Spain team that won the Euro is a very young team, right? And a team that you looked at with all of their stars. It's a side that it's one of those golden generations. They're stacked, and they will be one of the favorites. There's no denying the talent. There's no denying what they have.
The terrifying dominance of this new generation inevitably brings to mind one of the most glorious chapters in the history of Spanish football, Euro 2008, the 2010 World Cup, then Euro 2012. 3 major trophies in the span of just 4 short years created a dynasty that many consider the greatest in football history, not merely because of the silverware, but because of the way they dismantled their opponents. The trio of Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets brought Pep Guardiola's original tiki-taka blueprint from Barcelona and imposed it onto the international stage.
Do you think there's ever been a better midfield than Busquets, Xavi and Iniesta?
No. Not a chance. So I'm trying to think about Real Madrid midfield with Redondo. Makaleli as well was in that for a bit with Zidane and Figo.
Well, you had Casemiro, you had Kroos and you had Modric. I think I'd still go Barcelona one week.
The Barcelona one's better than that.
Oh, it's gotta be Iniesta, Busquets. To be honest, when Messi left, we all cried. But the one that made most difference was the Busquets. When Busquets left, really, you could actually feel that the team was broken down.
You mentioned 2 players there. Again, I go back to the same thing. Lionel Messi was getting the accolades, and rightly so. Samuel Eto'o was outstanding. Ronaldinho, I played in that team. Some other players, but the most important players were Xavi and Iniesta.
At the time, opponents barely had the chance to touch the ball, powerless to apply pressure and completely drained of energy. Spain dominated possession to an absolute degree, turning the pitch into their own sacred territory, where opponents were nothing more than hopeless visitors. But eventually, every empire must come to an end. Brazil 2014 saw the reigning world champions suffer a humiliating 1-5 defeat to the Netherlands in their opening match.
Iron Robin with Sergio Ramos. Iron Robin. There could be a 5th. There should be a 5th. There is a 5th. Louis van Gaal.
Arjen Robben tore through the Spanish stability between the posts, endured one of the darkest nights of his career. The subsequent 0-2 defeat against Chile proved to be the fatal blow, officially sending the Kings home from the tournament at the group stage. The problem was not difficult to identify. Spain still controlled matches and still dominated possession, but they had lost their pace and seemingly endless energy. By then, opponents had found the solution, maintained defensive discipline, and launched lightning, fast counterattacks the moment Spain lost the ball. Then came Russia 2018, where tragedy struck again in the round of 16 penalty shootout. In that match, Spain completed more than 1,000 passes. 1,000 passes, 74% possession, yet not a single decisive goal when it mattered most. Possession without penetration, what the Italians mockingly refer to as sterile domination. The same story repeated itself at Qatar 2022 against Morocco, once again in the round of 16. Spain monopolised the ball for over 120 minutes, but failed to create even a handful of genuinely dangerous chances. Then, in the cruel penalty shootout, Sarabia's effort crashing against the post officially sealed their fate, sending the possession specialists home early yet again.
With the chance to win it and go through. Hakimi gets it done! Oh, what a moment for Morocco! Achraf Hakimi!
3 consecutive World Cups without reaching the quarter-finals. A team that once represented the pinnacle of football intelligence and technique was now being labelled the greatest ball merchants in the world, capable only of passing and passing without producing any end product. Painful, isn't it? How could it not be?
Passe, 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 no goal, no goal, no goal, no goal.
At a time when belief had hit rock bottom and the demand for change had never been stronger, a watershed decision was made. At the end of 2022, the RFF dismissed Luis Enrique and appointed a man who, honestly, most fans immediately had to Google to find out who he actually was. Luis de la Fuente, 62 years old. No glamour, no legendary reputation. His resume consisted mainly of 9 quiet years managing Spain's U19 and under-21 sides. Following a humiliating 0-2 defeat to Scotland in the Euro qualifiers, scepticism rose to such levels that fans began questioning whether the federation had turned itself into a joke. Yet De La Fuente chose to remain silent. He stayed calm because he knew exactly which young blood was about to step into the spotlight. The philosophy he patiently built was completely different from that of his predecessors. This was no longer the outdated version of tiki-taka, the kind of possession football used merely to defend and slow games down. This was possession designed to destroy opponents. The 4-3-3 system operates with Rodri as the holding midfielder, two number 8s constantly exploiting the half spaces, while Yamal and Williams hug the touchlines to stretch defensive structures to their limits and force opposing full-backs into impossible dilemmas. More importantly, whenever Spain lose possession, they no longer retreat into a deep block. Instead, they immediately activate a counter-pressing system, applying suffocating pressure for 5 to 6 seconds in order to win the ball back before the opposition can establish any rhythm. It is a direct and aggressive weapon that the original version of tiki-taka never possessed. That is De La Fuente's Spain.
Nos sentimos cómodos en esa versatilidad de dominar el juego en un repliegue incluso bajo, bloque medio, bloque bajo. Tenemos facilidad para poder desplegar luego rápidas transiciones, rápidas situaciones de ataque, rápidas situaciones de poder aprovechar los espacios que generan los rivales cuando juegan más adelantados, y cuando nos permiten dominar el control del juego y jugar y tener más posesión de balón, exactamente igual. Era mantener esa misma idea.
And the results? The 2023 Nations League title became the launching pad for an extraordinary Euro 2024 campaign in Germany, where Spain won all 7 matches. Croatia, Italy, Germany, France, and finally England all fell one after another, with nobody capable of even holding them to a draw. That was not luck, that was the absolute dominance of a new king. Wonderful. Now, let us move on to the part I have been looking forward to most as we break down the real-world scenarios. Looking at the group stage, Spain find themselves in Group H alongside Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia and Uruguay. Marcelo Bielsa's Uruguay are clearly the only genuine challenge at this stage, but the balance of power still heavily favours La Roa, making top spot in the group virtually unquestionable. But the tournament truly begins in the knockout rounds, where I see major cracks that many people are deliberately choosing to ignore. First comes the Rodri dilemma. He has just endured a nightmare sequence of injuries, ranging from an ACL tear to a groin muscle injury toward the end of last season. Although the midfielder is on his way back, whether the version of Rodri we see at this World Cup can still reach the extraordinary standards he displayed at the Euros remains a major question mark that can only be answered once the tournament begins. The next concern lies with the star duo of Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, both of whom are heading into the tournament with uncertainty surrounding their availability due to hamstring injuries.
Every question to Coach Luis de la Fuente, the first one in every press conference, is about the injured players, the recovering players, about Lamine Yamal, about Mikel Merino, and the players that about Nico Williams as well, the players that aren't fully fit. He keeps insisting they will be fit for the first game. He always caveats that by saying they might not start the first game of the World Cup.
Although De La Fuente consistently insists he has no doubts regarding their readiness at a brutal competition like the World Cup, recovering from injury and reaching 100% form are two entirely different things. It is important to remember that Spain rely on the strength of this duo out wide more than any other national team in the world depends on its wingers. The final weak link is the absence of a truly world-class number 9.
They haven't got a world-class centre-forward. Oyarzábal is a decent player. He'll arrive in the box at the right time. He's not a bad finisher, but you can't say he's a great player. And I would say the same about Ferran Torres. So those wide players have to be at their very best if Spain are going to win the tournament.
Oyarzábal is currently the best available option for the role, having scored 15 La Liga goals last season and possessing a knack for delivering in major finals. However, he is clearly not the type of striker capable of carrying a team in the mould of Robert Lewandowski or Karim Benzema. If Yamal and Williams are unable to create space due to injuries or poor form, Spain's centre-forward alone will not be enough to solve matches by himself. Despite those concerns, a place in at least the quarter-finals remains firmly within Spain's grasp. In fact, if Rodri, Yamal and Williams are all fully fit, then the semi-finals should be considered their minimum expectation, with a place in the final entirely realistic. However, the 2026 Football Festival is no longer the Euro tournament of 2 years ago. The World Cup is where Brazil, Argentina, France and Germany await. Elite generations overflowing with experience in knockout battles and possessing more than enough quality to punish Spain on any given day. The beauty of De La Fuente's work is that he has not abandoned the traditional identity of Spanish football. He has upgraded and evolved it into something greater. With a new generation as young as Yamal, Pedri and Kubasi, this will almost certainly not be the last time we witness them reshaping the football landscape. That is why the biggest question right now is not whether Spain possess the necessary quality, because the answer is unquestionably yes. The real gamble lies in whether the key pieces in De La Fuente's hands can reach their ideal physical condition in time. That is the only barrier standing between Spain and their second World Cup trophy, and honestly, once this red whirlwind reaches its complete and most powerful form, perhaps the ones who will need good luck are all of their remaining opponents. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.